Welcome along then to what could be the deciding race for who gets away with the AOR GT3 Championship title. This is Tier 2 and I'm Insulaventus, your host, and with me in the commentary box I have Fistopheles. How are you doing?
I'm doing great today. Kind of excited for this one. After this, I think we've still got one more race to go, but as the championship is currently still undecided, I think Clown and Marley can both take it. It'll come down to the wire for these two drivers.
Yeah, the reason I say that it could be the deciding race is if Marley has a disaster and Clown wins this one, Clown is actually going to snatch that first position from Marley. Yeah, in the championship. So we might. This is yeah, as I said, it's coming down to the wire. So yeah, with this being the second to last race, excuse me. So it's gonna be cool to see who comes up on front. And Newey is still in the fight though. He's not so far back in points. 41 points gap. I actually learned today that the race winner gets 50 points. So yeah, Newey. Anything can happen.
And without any further ado, we're actually going to go right to the action, as the drivers are currently still in qualifying with 6 minutes and 40 seconds still on the clop. Nobody having set the time yet, but we're currently watching Marley, who is our championship leader, and let's see what he can do. I think this is his first actual hot lap. We are at Watkins, Glen, which is a beautiful track, one of the best driving tracks in the game, or possibly in any game I've ever raced in, if you ask me. So I think we'll see some great racing today.
We're just gonna go hop on board, excuse me, with Marley here, as we can just get a feeling of what this track looks like. I can see that this huge hill coming up here is a very undulating track, and as you say, very dramatic. And then the barriers come squeezing in on you.
And as you say that, Marley puts down a 1:43.3, which is about 0.6 seconds faster than the next best driver, which is our championship in third position, right? Newey at the moment, who just got beaten by Dakuza.
I just had a little bit of a gander at the leaderboards, the world records at this track with the Audi just before the stream, and it seems like a 1:41 is the absolute maximum you can get out of one of these cars, but that's with a special setup as well. So seeing times already, the first times being a 1:43 is really impressive, close to the world record and in qualifying trim as well. So,
and remember, this is tier 2. There are still drivers who are actually faster than this, but I don't think they'll race as well as these guys do. The gaps between these drivers is a bit smaller than at the tier 1 from what I have seen and heard. So this is what I think the place to be.
Indeed, especially if you're looking for action. Of course, it's so cool to see those people in tier 1 though, that are like almost professional drivers. They're just so insanely quick. They could certainly put up with the one of, if a pro driver started sim racing, they would be up there. So yeah, of course, interesting to see that part of esports racing as well. But I think it's more fun to see this part where we have a lot of fighting. And speaking of fighting, we've had some incredible battles with our fellow Shaggy Dan here and Oblitorin at Mercedes and Rick. So
and also, we have some information right in chat right now telling us that if Clown finishes second, Marley needs to finish 12th or lower for Timo to take the lead, or Clown to take the lead, and if Clown finishes in third, Marley needs to finish 18th or lower, which in this race I don't think is possible, as we have 16 or 17 starters this time around. So Timo needs to finish in first or in second position if he wants to take the championship lead this race.
Hey, actually, I thought it was like 8 or below, but that makes it a huge challenge for Clown then, if that's the case.
Yes,
so,
if Clown finishes first, I'm being told that he needs to finish in 9th position or lower. Marley,
okay.
that is.
Yeah, but then I just probably missed one number, so yeah. Actually, Clown coming in now.
Then again, looking at the qualifying times, this would be a very unlikely scenario to happen, but this is racing, and anything that can happen usually does.
Clown should have a little bit of time drawn from his lap time there because of that beautiful drift. Yeah, drivers squeezing everything they can out of the cars on this. As you can see, I brought up the map here. You can see it's a very it's a long track. It's a little bit of everything. Very few hairpins and some straights and then some long kinks.
Oh, losing a bit of traction on that Audi here. It seems like some of the drivers are actually struggling with grip on their cars quite a bit. We watched Dakuza before this, who was drifting about. I think that his teammate who was in front of him, Lusty, was having issues as well. So if the cars behave like this in the race as well, we're bound to see some incredible overtakes with drivers making mistakes out into and out of corners. And that means side-by-side action, and we're always up for that.
Indeed. Oblitor passing Smolda. Indeed. In terms of immersion, it's early morning in the United States, in New York, and it's October. I think it's mid-October, so track temperatures are probably gonna be a little bit toasty. Haven't really checked. So yeah, I think the guys are gonna be running softs, and so the track is gonna be hotter and hotter as the day comes on. And I have that information right now. Oh, excuse me, it's actually in the afternoon. That's the sunset, not the sunrise. So qualifying is in is at 4 p.m. Race is at 5, so we're actually going to see the track cool down maybe. So yeah, seeing a lot of grip lost with all these cars oversteering and understeering all over the place.
The question remains is actually though, if we have relatively cold to warm temperatures during the start of the race, it might be worth trying to take the soft tires, which we haven't seen this season as far as I remember. But there could always be that one guy who goes against the flow, especially this late at this stage in the championship for some of the drivers who are struggling to get points. They might try to do drastic things and get a bit up higher on that podium or on that points tally.
Absolutely. I was kind of stunned actually when I checked out the point scoring system, as there's a buttload of points out there if you want them. So I can now understand those super hefty battles. Oh, Oblitor. Yeah, we really should get drift points in this game.
They should indeed. The Mercedes especially has a tendency to four-wheel drift on certain setups, which is, excuse me, is what I think we've just seen into that chicane. Also, some of the drivers telling us that going into the chicane side by side is virtually impossible. So, in case any of these drivers try that, I think we're in for some slight contact between these cars, but we never know.
Yeah, we never know. Checkered flag is out, so qualifying is over. Lusty is still on a hot lap, so he might be able to prove that position. It's of course Smolda or Picklewickle that's still out, that has the most to gain, so let's check on him. I think he's actually is he the only Porsche driver? Oh,
he is the only Porsche driver in this split. I believe there are some in the lower tiers. I don't think there's any Porsche driver in Tier 1, at least in the PC League. I cannot confirm that for the console leagues, which have different grids. I would have to check that if I wanted to know. And Ticklish Picklewickle not being able to make up a position there. Dakuza being in an uncharacteristic 11th position here, actually. Struggling to get pace into that car. Or out of that car.
He was on a hot lap behind Picklewickle there, and I could see him in the background there, losing that rear end. So, yeah, but Picklewickle driving that Porsche like it should have been in perpetual oversteer, so that was awesome to see. Just have to point that car and...
Point it and go. As the engine is over the rear wheels, it does have the best out of the corners, and especially in the start traction, the heaviest part of the car is right over the wheels. As we have it right now, Clown and Marley and Arstic are apparently the staple runners in first, second, and third. I think we've seen this before. It feels like deja vu, at least. Followed by Lusty, Shaggy Dan, who's got a very good qualifying for himself in 5th position. Followed by Nui and Shooter 80 in 7th position. Shooter 80 being up on the grid again, as he was last race. So coming back strong towards the end of this season, it seems. In 8th position, we have Madsters, Smolda, and Ablator. Followed by Midweek Coma, Dakuza, Stormint, Ticklish Pickle Wickle, S4 Howie, and Gosku. Gosku rounding out the grid in 16th position, which again means, like the last few races, all drivers that started this race will score if they finish this race.
Absolutely. I'm gonna check out that scoring system. We have how many drivers? 16?
16.
16, yeah. So if you finish last, you'll get 5 points.
So he will get 5 points for finishing last, which is more than what Marley needs if Timo or if Clown comes home in third position. So there's quite the lead in the front for that green Lamborghini. As we stand right now, the drivers are on the grid, setting up their cars, or picking their setups, making sure they have the right pit stop strategy. And after they've done that, we will hear the engine start, and they will start the formation lap as per usual. And Clown will be the driver to start the race this time around once they hit the acceleration zone. Yeah,
this is why this season is so exciting, I think, because you have Clown here and Marley, just two titans fighting it out. The thing is, they are actually not that far ahead in terms of points to the rest of the pack, so if something disastrous happens, it's just going to be even more fun. Of course, a disaster for Clown and Marley, but that's going to be... could actually see someone totally else on the podium in the next race, which is the last. Here they come then, trying to rub that heat into their tires. There's a car outside my window, excuse me. By the way, if you think that I'm a different person because my voice sounds different, that's because I'm having a little bit of a cold. I had a cold last time as well, so it was kind of good that it wasn't heard as well as it could have been. But yeah, so...
Now that I want to excuse on my part, I had an issue with the game starting the race at a higher volume than I had set it to before we went into the lobby. But I have made sure that that issue does not appear again, at least this race, so we should be fine in terms of technicalities today.
Oh yeah, I actually had a right good laugh when I watched the stream back as like when you asked me to turn up the gain of my microphone. But what happens when I turn up the gain of my microphone is that it starts to like clip like crazy. So I could hear myself like super distorted in the background, just babbling away, and it was super funny to me. So yeah, hopefully a little bit clearer to hear this time.
I think it's great. At the moment, I do think our audio is doing very well. It seems our video is doing well as well, so I think for today, we'll have a good time. All that needs to happen now is a great race.
Everyone has a good time with you in the commentary box, Fistopheles.
Well, I hope they do. They're not gonna get rid of me that easy.
Yeah, I think they're actually... Oh, there's someone lagging behind here. It's Gosku.
Gosku lagging behind. He might have spun out or may have had an issue in the downhill section or the... what is that? The chicane section at the end of Sector 1?
Yes, I think it is. He might have spun or something.
Or he may have had to adjust a setting on his computer, it seems, as he's just driving very slow in the straights, which seems to me that he's not pressing the gas pedal so that he can adjust something. Maybe his chair, maybe his wheel, maybe his audio.
Pit strategy, actually.
Or it could be a pit strategy.
Yeah, if you click the wrong pit strategy, you have to make one on your own with the wheels. Yeah, and that's always not fun. And here we have them forming up in the formations.
Right. Since we've met them. And I do believe at the yellow, so the Clown may start the race whenever he wants now. And the race is underway. Clown gets a pretty decent start, but Marley stays very close to him. Probably not close enough to go up to around the inside, but Clown, I think, leaves a tiny bit of room there. With Nui going around the outside of Shaggy Dan, and Lusty getting apparently a bad start as he might come under fire from the Canadian and the Englishman in the two Audis. Shaggy Dan being the teammate of Clown, possibly wanting to pick up a few positions towards the beginning of the race so that he can be a bit closer to his teammate, who is performing very well this season. Shaggy Dan having a few unfortunate events happen to him, and has therefore not had a podium finishing position this season, and I think he might want to take that in these last two races.
Checking back on Shaggy Dan now. Camera, please. Mine is unfocused. Is yours working? Yours working?
No, it is not. I do have this very same camera that you do. It's the standard Project Cars 2 camera that has given us so many laughs over this season. As it appears now, we're watching the racetrack.
Yeah, I'm trying to watch out for Storm because he's battling with Oblitor, but it doesn't seem like
in all of that, Shooter's lost quite a few positions. He started in 7th, I believe. He's now down in 14th position. He might have had, either in the start, been punted off. It doesn't seem like his car has any damage, at least from the front. We haven't seen the rear so far, or he may have just overcooked it into the chicane.
It's a little bit of a classic Shooter there. He's always making a little bit of a mistake and then always trying to catch up again. Seen some momentous comeback drives from him before.
We have indeed, and some very good battles as well. One of the great battlers is not here today, as I believe Mickesby could not make it, or he has withdrawn from the league. I'm not quite sure, as I haven't checked up on that yet. But as we have it at the moment, the first 6 positions have not changed, with Matster moving up into 7th and the few drivers behind him moving up as well, as Shooter has lost his 7th position at the time and is now in 14th. Dakuza has lost a position to Stormit, I believe, as he started in 11th and should have picked up a spot, but when Shooter made that mistake, but he did not, therefore he has lost, and there's a black Audi, Matster having made another mistake, and it appears like he backs up onto the track and Gosku hits him. That might be the end of the race for Matster, as his car is completely turned around.
Oh no, what a disaster.
That is indeed a disaster. Matster retiring into the pits. Not a very good race from him, it seems, as it's over prematurely.
Yes, and with what's his name again? Yeah, Matster having some antics on the forums. We might see some action on the forums again.
This time possibly, though, against him, as he did move his car back onto the track whilst there were still cars racing close to him, and Dakuza dives into the pits first, followed very closely by Midwee Coma and Shooter 80. Shooter 80, let's see if he has a long pit stop to see if there's any damage. I don't believe there is, as his car looks to be in pristine condition.
Here comes Gosku, though. He's going to have a lot of damage.
He's going to have a lot of front end damage. We can see, no damage.
Away.
And Gosku will probably have a very, very long pit stop after that collision. Not to his fault, though, as Matster did move the car back onto the track when he should not have done so.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a disaster for Gosku, but as I mentioned, you're going to get 5 points. I think 6 now.
Now it is more, 6 possibly, since he is now in 15th position and not in 16th. It's not as long as we had anticipated it is, but he did wait for quite a while. Being the last driver on the grid now, It's just a matter of finishing the race. There could still be collisions between other drivers in which he could capitalize on their mistakes and have others either retire or have so much damage that he can overtake them.
Absolutely, he's not that far off. Of course, he's not going to win the race, but he might actually catch a position or two. So yeah, Storm. There's a huge battle going on for 6th position with 4 cars involved. So it's going to start from the back. We have Storm
we have Storm
to catch up to
in 9th. Oblator having actually a lot of damage on his car, it seems. Possibly a collision. The car not being very stable, it seems, either. Just following Smolda and Nui at the moment. Nui being a bit far away for them to attack, and seemingly Shaggy Dan also being able to pull a bit away from Nui. Shaggy Dan actually being very close to Lusty in front. We might see an overtaking move into the chicane section, as there's quite a long straight leading up to it. It's going to be interesting to see if one of them tries to outbrake the other. It does not appear like it, but Shaggy Dan is surely putting pressure on Lusty at the moment, being currently these two being the best of the rest, as the titans of Tier 2, Clown, Marley, and Arsik are just pulling away bit by bit at the moment. These 3 drivers just being a bit faster than everybody else, being able to capitalize a bit on their lines, making up about maybe 0.1 of a second per corner, but that does add up over a lap.
Oh, absolutely over a lap, and we're going to have 35 of them, so that's certainly going to make a difference. And yeah, as you say that, they're just increasing that lead in front of Lusty, so yeah.
And Marley actually going very, very unstable on corner exit, which might put him under fire from Arsik. Although he can't capitalize on that, he's now very close to him, and that it has, in fact, put them possibly under fire from Lusty as well, as they're going a bit slower than they would through the final section of this track. Lusty might have a look if these guys lose time fighting.
I think Oblator was a little bit oh, excuse me, that's another Mercedes. I just caught that two cars got a penalty now, so I'm just going to bring up the timings for a second, and then you can see, there you can see them.
We do have a 1 second penalty for Oblator and Shaggy Dan, although Shaggy Dan seems to have dropped his pace a bit, so we might see him trying to fight that penalty, as he seems to have lost a lot of time on that last lap with a 147 compared to a 144 from Lusty. It was quite close to him before, so we will see what happens there. This track, of course, being very strict on its corner cutting rules. Oblator
just passed.
Oblator just passed Smolda, and Smolda possibly losing out to Stormont as well. The camera not allowing us to see this at the moment, but Stormont going past Smolda there as well. Smolda seemingly struggling a bit at the moment. Let's see if he actually tries to come back in the next corner, or if he has the pace to do so, as Stormont doesn't seem to have gotten the fastest of exits out of the first section of the chute down there. But he can't do it, so he slots in behind Stormont at the moment.
This is the fight for 7th position. Looks like Lusty is actually caught up to Rick really well here.
Lusty, yes indeed. It seems that the fighting between Arsik and Marley has, Marley has cost them quite a lot of time. Possibly putting Arsik under fire into that first corner from Lusty, but Lusty decides not to go for it. But Arsik gets a terrible exit out of turn 1. They go side by side into turn 2 and possibly even turn 3. No, Lusty decides to slot it behind him, but he now has the draft on the long straight leading up to the chicane. So we'll see what he does. It doesn't appear that his car has the pace to match that of the powerful Mercedes there, as Arsik just walks away seemingly in that chicane section.
Yeah, so as we talked about this track having a little bit of everything, you can suit your car to different parts of the track. So that might be what we're seeing here, as Lustig seemingly catching up in the twisty bits and Rick getting away on the straights.
Which is, of course, a valid strategy, as it is much harder to overtake during a corner than it is during braking and or on a straight. Arsik possibly having thought that the Mercedes is not good enough in the corners to warrant a corner setup, has decided to make his car as fast as he possibly can.
A little battle for 5th position again with Nui and Shaggy Dan.
Shaggy Dan seemingly struggling after he's got that 1 second time penalty, which of course is quite the annoyance to the driver, as it is quite a loud dinging noise when you get it, and it does throw you off of your concentration. So this is what might have happened here, as he was in fact just about as fast as Lustig, and he is now losing quite a bit of time to that group in front. But Lustig seems to be struggling a bit as well up there in front.
Looked like he was actually going to make a move there, but I think he backed out of it, and that's why he's still behind him there. So, yeah, Lustig hardened the attack for Rick here. So just going to have a look at the standings. Yeah, Lustig in 8th position, and that's going to... yeah, Lustig charging Shaggy Dan in the championship standings, so Lustig with this position might be able to push Shaggy Dan just enough behind him for him to take that 7th position in the championship before it ends. Of course, it's not the win, it's not the title, but you have to set kind of goals either way to improve.
Indeed. As we're now currently watching Shaggy Dan has been overtaken by Nui as we have the standings at the moment, as he is now being followed by Oblator. Shaggy Dan seemingly having a lot of trouble with his car. He's dropping times quite a bit at the moment, doing 1:45.2 compared to 1:44.6 from Arsik, actually having been overtaken by Lustig as well. Lustig now being in front. Some of these drivers unexpectedly struggling for pace at the moment. Might be that the tires are in fact overheating and they're hoping for the later track to cool down. Shaggy Dan coming into the pits. Let's see if he actually has any damage, which might be the cause of his drop in pace. I don't believe it is. It does not appear to be that the case. It was probably just his tires overheating.
Oh, he might come out in traffic with the Kusa. No, he's not. That's a long pit straight, so
it is indeed. And the corner out of the pits is also a bit slower than turn 1. You will always lose a bit of time there. Now just behind the Kusa and in front of Midwecoma having pitted already, and Shooter having pitted as well. Shooter also having received a penalty, as well as S4 Howie. Shooter is still being on the attack, currently behind Midwecoma, who is Nui's teammate. Midwecoma last season being a semi-pro driver, so that would be this year's Tier 3, having moved up to Tier 2 this time around. We'll see if there's any movement there, as it seems like Arsik has completely slotted in behind Lustig at the moment, and Shooter losing that rear end there quite a bit. Somehow being able to save that car. Some major skill from him. Very good catch on his end. Possibly the dirty air behind Midwecoma. As it appears, do we have any other battles on track at the moment?
We have a battle for 3rd with Rick and Lustig.
We have, as it appears, he's slotted in behind Lustig for the time being, as Lustig seems to have a bit of a higher pace than Marley at the moment even, as he did post a lap time that's 0.2 seconds faster than Marley's. The fastest guy on track, of course, at the moment being... Actually not being Clown, it's Dakuza with a 1:43.8 compared to 1:43.9 from Clown. So Dakuza possibly having ironed out the issues he had in qualifying and finding that pace with his BMW, maybe looking to charge forward in the field.
Yeah, out in a clean air, not having anyone behind or in front of him, so he's just banging out those laps. Yeah, seemingly only battle we have still is Rick and Lusty still, and Lusty overtaking Rick earlier on in the race, so... Excuse me, I hope... I wish I had this voice all the time, because it's so much lower than my usual voice, so... I don't know if it sounds better or not, but it's yeah, of course. I was about to say that Howie was about to get Storm in 14th position, but it seems like it was a timing bug, so yeah, race calming down a little bit.
In the very early stages as well, as we've only been to lap 10 of 35. Currently, everybody's seemingly trying to keep the temperatures in their tires down a bit, maybe, as I believe Arsig would probably have the pace to be a bit closer behind Lusty. He was in fact the driver who qualified in 3rd position, and Lusty was in 4th, so his 1 lap pace should be a bit faster. But he seemingly decides not to. As we have it right now, everything seems to be staying the same. We could have an intermission and a commercial break. That's what we do right now, but we do not. So,
yeah, we do not. I just got some information. The race is starting with medium and transitioning to heavy clouds, and it was light clouds in the qualifying. That's what it. Oh,
light clouds in the moment. Marley seemingly having lost a bit of time there.
I think I heard someone spinning or whatever, but it might be in the pits.
It might be, but Clown's last lap was also a bit slower than the guys around him, especially more like the guys behind him. So it seems like his and his teammates' setups seem to either overheat the tires or have some other issues that make them difficult to drive consistently.
Yeah, I'm just have to mute my mic sometimes to cough, but yeah, so... yeah, as you mentioned, Clown kind of running away with it, not quite though. He's made a gap of 3 seconds, and of course that's a lot by 10 laps. 12.
Just now. Then again, Marley also losing a bit of time on his last lap as well. Lusty being the only driver in the top 4 or 5 drivers at the moment in the 43s on his last lap. Might be that the track is actually getting slower now. Might get a bit faster later. Interesting to see, as we haven't had this development this season, I believe.
Yeah, I thought that it was going to be faster though, because of the heavy clouds, and it's going to be later on in the evening. But yeah, so the track might actually still be heating up, and as we get halfway through the race, it might cool again as we get even heavier clouds.
And this is just from feeling, but especially through that chicane section, the Audi from Clown didn't look like the most stable car in the world. It's like I said, it seems like he and his teammate are having issues. Marley is catching up a little bit. He was down 3.3 at the end of the last lap. Let's see where he can put his car this lap. I think he'll be a bit closer, like 3.1 or 2.9 once we reach the start-finish straight. R6 still following Lusty fairly closely, but not close enough for a move. Possibly hoping for Lusty to make a mistake instead of actively attacking, as Lusty does indeed have the pace at the moment to match the guys in front. Even more than match, actually, he's actually catching them bit by bit. If he can keep these lap times up, R6 possibly hopes to just take the tow and have Lusty deliver him to the first 2 positions.
I'm gonna try to do some quick math here and try to calculate what the championship standings are gonna be like, or I could just check chat again and see.
I think we should instead of we should do that once all the other cars have been in the pits, as not everybody's pitted yet. Some of the cars have, I think, longer standing pit times than others. I think one of the Mercedes has one of the longer ones, which might mean that Arsic has to pit before Lusty so he doesn't get under or overcut it in that sense, and not take that position back. Is Nui actually catching up there behind them as well? It seems like he is, as he is currently a bit faster than everybody but Arsic in that lead 4 group at the moment. It was interesting to see the developments of the driver's pace at the moment, as some of them seem to be struggling and others seem to post the fastest laps of the race. At this point I find it hard to predict what will happen, as I can't really say what the tires will do. Assuming that everybody is running the hard tires, they should cool down as the race progresses, as the track is only getting cooler, the sun is going down, and we are getting more clouds. With Lusty now pretty much matching the drop of pace we see at the front, the very front, and Arsic as well. Like I said, an interesting development which I hadn't expected. Dakuza still running 39s, it seems. Being the fastest driver in the field at the moment, currently in 9th position. Being very close to Ticklish Picklewickle at the moment. He might take that position from him. As Dakuza, I believe, he has already pitted. Has he not?
I think he has.
And going side by side into that chicane. The car's actually going side by side. I think there's a little bit of contact between the two drivers, nothing major. And Dakuza goes past Ticklish Picklewickle, possibly losing him a bit of time on this lap, but not that much in the overall time schedule of the race. Now just pulling away. He seems to have a lot of overspeed at the moment. Like I said,
he's actually having almost qualifying pace right now.
Yes, he is. He was struggling in qualifying, but he seems to be doing very well in the race. With doing the only drivers now being in the 143s, and actually Clown doing a 143.9 as well now. Still not his best time. Shaggy Dan now going past Ticklish Picklewickle as well. Shaggy Dan, who had struggled earlier after he'd come close to Lusty, but had received a penalty.
You can bring him up and okay, so Oblator has a 3-second penalty now.
At this point, Oblator's gotten another 2 seconds. I believe it would be in the chicane section on this track, as it is the easiest section to cut, and possibly the only section where you actually do gain a bit of time if you do so. The car does slide on all 4 wheels going through there, and therefore it's easy, very, very easy to get all 4 wheels off of that white line.
Rick prowling for Lester right now. He was about to make a move there, but I think he backed out of it again, so coming onto the straight now, he might be able to make another move. Here they come.
He's possibly noticed that Lusty's dropping in pace too, and now wants to get past him again, so that he can charge after Marley himself. Of course, Marley's still running in 2nd position at the moment, about 2.7 seconds now only behind Clown, so making up a bit of time there. It seems, let's have a look at what this will look like once they reach the start-finish line. Arsic going very wide there on exit, having to adjust his line very, very quickly for that last corner. Now only 2.4 seconds behind Clown. Clown actually having doing a 45.5 on the last lap, so he seems to be struggling. With Lusty and R10 now being in the 143s as well, again, with Dakuza on his last lap doing a 44, which is not a surprise, as he did in fact have to overtake Tickler's Pickle Wickle on track.
Oh.
With R10 now going side by side with Lusty, but opting out of it as he knows that two cars going side by side into that section is nearly impossible, but has in fact shown himself in the mirrors and is putting a lot of pressure on the BMW driver to see if he cracks under that pressure.
I just did some quick maths, but it was kind of slow maths since it took so long. But if Clown and Marley finish in these positions, that's actually not gonna knock the Clown out of the fight. So if Clown wins the last race and Marley finishes in 11th or lower, that's gonna put Clown in the championship title. So I give it to him. So yeah, it's certainly it would be a disaster for Marley there, but it's still a possibility though.
Still very much, everything seems to be possible still at the moment. As it appears at the moment, neither Marley nor Clown are making great mistakes, but Clown does seem to lose a bit of time every now and again, so he is in fact struggling.
Yeah, that gap has actually decreased by 1 second now, so and if this keeps happening, I think that's going to be enough for Marley to be able to fight Clown.
Then again, we have to remember that it is a bit harder running in the dirty era of another car. Especially since on the Lamborghini you cannot adjust the front splitter, so he has to run the same front setup in qualifying as he does in the race, and even if he tried to do a dirty air setup, he couldn't adjust the front splitter, so the grip there would not change by all that much. So it'll be interesting to see if anything were to happen there as Marley gains a bit more time, it seems. Just taking off little bites. R6 still being very close to Lusty.
Yeah,
the two of them not giving each other the time of day at the moment.
Shooter is still behind Coma. I just call him Coma.
Midway Coma. Seemingly not being able to get past the driver of that Audi. Shooter having qualified in 7th position, quite interestingly, not having the pace to overtake a driver who's qualified much later, and he has shown to have the pace to run in that 7th position as well, but he got very unlucky in the start, I believe. But now they are practically side by side in this section of the shoe. Starting off the 3rd sector at the moment, Shooter goes down and deep on the inside, but does not have enough exit speed to contest into the next corner. But he now goes on the inside and forces Midway Coma into a wide line and takes that corner masterfully. Great overtake by Shooter yet again. And he goes very wide there, possibly taking a penalty with him. Interesting to see if that happens. He does already have one, and he's currently into 10th position with that. Just behind Shaggy Dan. Well, I say just behind Shaggy Dan, and there's contact between Midway Coma and Shooter as Shooter lost the car on exit, and Midway Coma just barreled into him. That certainly can't be good for either of them. I think Shooter may have been a bit more lucky as only the side of his car has been damaged, but the front of that Audi is completely demolished. At this point, I believe there would be too much damage to drive the car properly, almost. Although it seems to be fine from this angle. He has undoubtedly lost a lot of speed there through that move, or through that accident. And he has in fact lost 14 seconds compared to his best time in the first sector only. So, very unfortunate events for midweek coma there. I think there was nothing he could have done. With Cloud coming into the pits now, Lusty being 1.3 seconds off of Marley now, and Arctic being just behind the two of them. Let's see, Clown was struggling a bit on the last few laps, with Arctic now being, and Lusty going side by side into turn 2 and turn 3. Arctic just slotting in behind that BMW again. We have to remember the straight line speed on this AMG seems to be a bit higher than on that BMW. He can't seem to make it work. The straight on this track does not seem to be long enough. But he has in fact made up time through the chicane section. So still putting pressure on Lusty, who seems to be very, very stable in these conditions, which is very, very commendable. Not every driver would be seemingly this calm, having the AMG, or an AMG, in this case the AMG of possibly one of the fastest drivers in Tier 2 behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. Rick, as I think this battle has been going on for the last 5 laps even, and that's certainly gonna be coming into Lusty's head now, as yeah, it's incredible how these two have been able to set these amazing lap times even when battling, and that's allowed them to catch Marley. So Marley, that's been in free air kind of, has actually been caught now by Lusty and Rick. I don't know if he made a mistake, but it seems like Lusty and Rick has just been hammering out these beautiful laps even when fighting. So,
and both Marley and Arctic actually going into pits now. Now it'll be interesting to see what happens next, as Clown has apparently gone for the undercut. Neither of these guys' last lap times was very quick. It'll be interesting to see where Cloud comes out, as he now should be ahead of Arctic and Marley, going through the start, or over the start-finish straight now. Possibly coming in side by side with Marley, and Marley's actually overtaken Clown in the pits, but Clown now has the speed going up behind Marley, and will undoubtedly overtake him into that chicane section, with Marley actually going very defensive here, and having a bit more straight line speed, it seems. It'll be a question of who breaks the latest, and Clown slots in behind Marley. Marley having gained a position there, with interesting to see, with Dakuza in just behind them as well. Dakuza having actually gained a lot of time there, and is fighting for what seems to be third position. Into net third position.
Net third position, and Dakuza has been setting amazing lap times for ages now, so he's actually plowed through the field kind of, so.
I would have assumed if these guys had waited any longer, Dakuza would have overtaken them with the very, very early undercut. Dakuza now seemingly struggling a bit in that dirty air, and hitting that tire barricade doesn't seem to have caused damage. It may just have been on our end. Dakuza struggling in dirty air, it seems, with Arctic just behind these guys as well.
That was just an amazing undercut by Marley there. I mean,
it was indeed.
Yeah, Marley was still in front, but I'm still trying to learn what undercut means. I think I know what it means, but yeah,
an undercut is when you go into the pits before someone else and overtake them that way. So as you get new tires, usually you are faster coming out of the pits and gain enough time to make it out before they leave the pits the lap afterwards. Something we don't really have.
In behind Marley there, so I get it now. So Clown was of course in front, and
basically an overcut done by Marley, which is quite the exact opposite of going in after somebody. by doing a very, very, very fast in-lap. So fast that you come out of the pits in front of the car that you were behind. And he was actually behind by quite a lot, I believe, about 2 seconds. So that in-lap from Marley must have been quite the thing to behold, combined with a not-so-great outlap from Clown. But that has, of course, shaken things up, as Clown does appear to be the bit of a faster driver at the moment. So we will have some action to see for a first-position battle.
Yeah, Clown is just nibbling at the heels of Marley right now. He's pushing as hard as he can.
He's basically trying to kiss the gearbox of that Lamborghini at the moment.
Yeah,
staying very close behind. You can see the gearbox. So it'll be interesting to see if Marley can withstand the pressure that Clown is actually putting on him right now. Then again, of course, this track seemingly not having that many great overtaking opportunities, this is possibly the only move that Clown can make on Marley to hope that he does make a mistake and take that position back.
A bit of a cough break there. Excuse me if there's a little bit of sniveling and everything, but hopefully it's going to be fine for next week. And just bringing up the timings here. Marley has a 10-second penalty.
Marley has, in fact, a 10-second penalty. This might have come from speeding in the pit lane, which is a penalty you can get. He might have been a kilometer an hour too fast, or pressed on the accelerator a bit too quickly. And if that is the case, he would lose quite a few positions. Of course, we don't know what he received the penalty for, but would confirm that he hasn't received it for overtaking or getting an overtaking penalty for overtaking a car he's not allowed to overtake, as none of that has happened as of now. We don't know when he's gotten the penalty. Lusty coming into the pits now. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out. A very short pit stop on his side. Lusty, of course, being just behind these guys and still staying out for a bit. It could be that the overcut on this track is the way to go, but they do essentially pass him. It'll be interesting to see if R10 actually makes it past Lusty. As he doesn't, Lusty comes out right behind Takuza, his teammate at the moment. So I don't think we'll see a change in position here, as these guys want to take as many points as they can home for their team. And Takuza does, in fact, I believe, have a bit more pace in the race than these other guys. But of course, he has dropped back a bit, possibly because he was having issues in dirty air.
Speaking of championship, we are not so good at focusing on that when the race starts. But Clown?
With Clown still being very close to that Lamborghini, and possibly going around the inside here into the shoe section and just walking past Marley.
Oh, I was so afraid. I thought Marley was just gonna plow straight ahead there, but it seems like he caught some grip there and was able to turn that car in. But that looked really dire for Marley for a second.
Taking that position back, the one that he lost because of the pit stop. And now Takuza being right behind them, as they've lost a bit of time right there. Essentially the slot that was between these two and Takuza has now been filled by Marley, who'd made a mistake. Takuza going very wide there on exit, losing the back end of that car, possibly losing quite a bit of time there as well. It seems like he's pushing his car as much as he can. R10 not being able to close the gap, it seems. Struggling on grip at the moment. Currently we're on lap 24 of 35, so there's only 11 laps to go, including this one.
I just realized something devastating. It's if Clown didn't have those pit stop issues, those bugs earlier on in those races, it could have meant that we could have had like a 5-point difference or something between Marley and Clown. So that would make this so much more tense.
It would indeed. Clown being possibly, unknowingly maybe, one of the fastest drivers in this tier of the league, or in this tier at the moment. Of course, like we said, having pit stop issues in a few of the earlier races meant that he has lost out on first place victories.
Yeah, interesting to see what the Kusa and Lusty is going to do about the situation, though. Of course, both being teammates and yeah, but it seems like they're just gonna push it. It seems like the Kusa is just gonna try to catch Marty there, and might try. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna be that dirty, but the Kusa could try to make some moves and allow Lusty to pass as well, just to catch those extra positions. But considering the team championship, I just checked, and it's Clown and
Shaggy Dan in first place, it seems.
In first place, yeah, with the VDT Racing, and then we have in second place we have the Mercedes of Rick and Oblator.
Oblator, indeed. Oblator is seemingly still struggling. Struggling this entire season a bit. Having a very good outing in Spain, winning that race, which was of course a reverse grid race, which put him up quite a bit on the championship ladder. Now struggling. He is currently in first position, but he has not yet pitted, and his lap times do not seem to match what his teammate is currently capable of. Maybe this car is not suiting him as well as he thought it would. Possibly, as it is one of the heavier cars, it does tend to all-wheel drift a bit more than some of the other ones. I have spoken to a few of the drivers who did not like that behavior. He might be one of them, as he'd figured that out possibly later in the season. But we never know. As we're going back to the battle between for net first position, which is currently the battle for third position. As again, Smolda and Oblator still have to pit. Dakuza, Lusty, Marley, and Clown, having already pitted, are officially in first, second, third, and fourth, being followed at the moment by Arsic and Nui, who is actually very close, or closing at that gap to the Mercedes at the moment as well. So our former championship leader, possibly looking to capitalize here as well. He was leading the championship for a fairly long time in the opening stages of this season, so he possibly wants to finish strong here as well. Everything's still open. If either Clown or Marley, and even possibly both of them, do not end up finishing a race, he is the man who capitalizes on that and takes back that championship lead.
Yeah, Nui being kind of a little bit of a reverse Marley, kind of, as Nui finished very strongly often early on in the season, and kind of inconsistent with a 16th place, and then a first, and then a first again. So yeah, kind of falling off a little bit in the end of the season, where Marley just seemingly improves by a ton every lap. So yeah, Nui falling off a little bit, so the championship title is certainly up for grabs between Clown and Marley only, and Nui in third. He's still on the podium though, so yeah. If Nui wants to win or get the second place in the championship, he's certainly going to take something wonderful out of his hat now to try and catch those positions.
Yes, he does. It would be a miracle. And Oblator is going into the pits now, so he will lose that first position he was in at the moment. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out. I think it'll be around Shooter, as he has stayed out for quite a while longer than everybody else at the moment. He's really not having any considerable damage, as he's not repaired it. Comes out
with Shaggy Dan.
Possibly with Shaggy Dan, yes. We can't really see what happens here. He does come out in front, I believe.
Oh, yes, that's just in front of Shaggy Dan there.
Just in front of Shaggy Dan. It's kind of hard to see as the camera does not pan over far enough for us to see the car going up into turn 2. But yes, he is just in front of Shaggy Dan. It'll be interesting. We'll possibly see a fight between those two nearing the last 5 laps of this race. As we are currently on lap 27, we have 8 laps to go. 27 of 35 it is, and this is currently the battle for 2nd position. And Lusty loses the back end there by quite a bit. Very uncharacteristic of him for this race, as he was just as stable as they get. And the Kuza is now very, very close to the Lamborghini of Marley, looking up to take that 2nd position and secure those driver points and those constructors points with his teammate. The Constructors Championship still also being up for grabs, I believe. But
yeah, it's pretty close.
Currently,
between the Mercedeses.
The combination of Lusty and Dakuza seems to be a bit stronger than all the other combinations, as they have one very strong driver and a driver who's a bit slower. But Lusty and Dakuza being very, very close to one another.
Yeah, Dakuza's team with Lusty there being in 3rd in the Constructors Championship, so yeah, a little bit behind the rest. So actually the Drivers' Championship, I mean the Constructors, is still up for grabs. Howie actually having a little bit of a battle with Goski for 13th position.
Again, this is racing and anything can happen. If Marley or Clown were not finish this and the following race, they could possibly lose to somebody who is anything less than 100 points behind them. The Kuza's actually passed Marley, but it let him pass again. It seems like there was a bit of contact between the drivers, and he's felt that he's had to let Marley pass. Marley seemingly thanking him for that with a flash of the headlights, or in this case also the taillights, which is something we don't see if we're not following the car, but that is in fact there. R6 now closing up to Lusty again. Lusty, who'd made the mistake on the lap 27, I believe, and going very wide there as well. Lusty struggling now.
Oh, Rick though behind there.
R6 being very close behind that, and Nui as well. Nui closing up to that group, so Nui might just take that 5th position if these two fight a bit too much. Smolder coming into the pits now.
That's gonna put Clown in 1st again.
Put Clown back into his 1st position. Clown being able to just walk away at the moment. About 3 seconds, taking 3 seconds off of Marley and Dakuza. Lusty and Arsik being 5 seconds behind that. Arsik being very close to Lusty this time around. Lusty seemingly not getting the best of exits out of turn 1 and into turn 2. I don't think Arsik has enough straight line performance to come close and attack into the chicane. But again, he will put more pressure on that BMW, and we have in fact seen Lusty crack a bit on an earlier lap where he's lost a bit of that rear end into this downhill section on this coming up left-hander coming up. So he might make that mistake again, and if he does, Arsik will be there to profit from it. But this of course means these two battling, they will lose a bit of time. And I think that means that Nui is going to close up to them as well, as he's very close behind. So we might have a battle on the last 5 laps for 4th position as well as for 2nd position. As we've just come in, midweek Coma's PC has crashed, so he is out of the race. That is such a shame at the moment. Not what he wanted, clearly.
Yeah, with Goski having that incident earlier on in the race, we talked about just being in the race is gonna net you points, and here we have it. He's actually passed Pickle Wickle now, so he's actually gained a few points instead of just
Has he
out
passed
the race.
Picklewickle? It appears that he's passed S4 Howie, but not Ticklish Picklewickle.
Oh,
but he has
yes,
indeed passed somebody on track, and again, he's made up 2 positions only by so far competing in the race, as like we've just heard, had an unfortunate disconnection through a PC crash from Midway Coma, and we've had Madster make a mistake on track that of course involved Gosku at the time being, and Madster had to retire his car, and that puts him, as it is now, after that overtake, into 13th position, which is not a bad thing considering his race didn't go off to a great start, with Marley actually going sideways through that corner and Dakuza now being very close. Marley just seemingly letting Dakuza by, it seems there.
And that is why I just wanted to butt in here and just say that is why you should go, if you want to join this racing, just click that link that the bot is spamming in the chat there. It's just, that is why we enjoy league racing so much. It's just so good. Gentlemen all around, and just clean racing. This is fantastic to see.
It is indeed. Some of these guys who are racing here are some of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Great attitude at the moment in Tier 2, and they'll keep it clean on track. If they make mistakes, they will apologize. So there's never a better time to join league racing, especially with the size that AOR is now. It is constantly growing, and I think people will have a great time racing here.
Yeah, actually discussing, I just caught that Nui, the Rick is falling back a little bit, that's why Nui is catching up. Yeah, just esports in general, because it's gonna get so much momentum. I think it's just gonna get so much bigger, because in terms of like what you did in like the 90s and 80s, if you wanted to get into racing, you had to pay like shitloads for a go-kart, and then you had to pay to go there, you get a special car.
You had to pay for the cars, you had to pay for the driving. That's actually a thing that still exists in today's racing world, that you pay for a driving seat. It's not, everything is not sponsored. You don't necessarily get paid, with RC actually going sideways through that corner as well. You actually get paid for driving. So sim racing is the perfect alternative, and will always welcome newcomers to this beautiful sport, I want to call it. And if it means we'll see more great racing like this, I'm all for it.
Yeah, the cost of entry is just so drastically reduced with the sim rigs that you can build today, and of course with the simulation of the games as well, just improving very much. And I can't wait to try the Assetto Competizione game to check out what it's like. We might, I don't know if you want, but you might join me there as a commentator for that instead.
I might join you there as a commentator. Which would be a great thing to have. I do believe from all the people RC being very aggressive coming back onto that track. We were just talking about gentlemanlike behavior. That might actually be investigation worthy, as he did rejoin the track and has forced Nui to slow down quite a bit, going sideways there. Again, R6 struggling a lot. Yeah,
Rick being a little bit of a roadblock there, as he just slides that car and shuts the door on Nui. So, yeah, Nui only being held back by Rick here.
Arsik at the moment, with Arsik losing the touch on that car, the Mercedes seemingly just falling off of a cliff at the moment. Is not the most confidence-inspiring car, it seems, with Dakuza still being in second position, but Dakuza actually closing up to Clown at the moment. The gap between Marley when he was in front of Dakuza was about 3 seconds, and Dakuza's closed that gap down to 1.4, so Dakuza seemingly having by far the fastest, like I've said this a ton of times before, the fastest race pace at the moment.
Yeah, Dakuza
we
is
might
kind
actually
of,
see we might actually see Dakuza going on the attack on the last lap for that first position, going very close to the barricade. He's really pushing his car at the moment. Some great driving. It's beautiful to watch. it just seems so stable. But I can only imagine how much on edge he is at the moment.
Yeah, I just wanted to... He is a good contender now for driver of this race. I think he's just been putting in those qualifying laps again and again for this whole race. Of course, not maybe qualifying pace for the top, but qualifying pace for him. So that's certainly explaining why he's just driving his his heart out. So yeah, definitely a very well deserved second place if he can get it.
Let's see if he can.
And Marley now.
Lusty and Marley still fighting here. Possibly Lusty also taking another position would of course be great for these two BMW drivers if Lusty were to be able to take another position. There's contact between Howie, it seems. Howie just somehow trying to get his car off track to not be in the way of these cars, it seems. Has somehow managed it by driving his car into a wall. Of course, that's not ideal, but he's done it. Having lost a lot of time to the man who was just a bit in front of him, namely Gasku. Which is another interesting fact. This race, we haven't had, except for S4 Howie just now, any lapped traffic. Howie was just the very first car to have been lapped, which speaks volumes about the pace of the field at the moment. I don't think they will be able to catch Gasku, who is still 5 or 6 seconds ahead, and they are on lap 34 of 35, as Gasku's on lap 33. So there's only 2 laps to catch this traffic car. So I don't think they will be able to do that.
Might actually be some last lap action here, as Dakusa is still catching
Clown, and he's less than a second behind now as well. So there's
I think that because of Howie having that incident, so they have to dodge him, and that's I think that's allowed Dakusa to try and just squeeze that gap a little bit shorter.
So yeah, on the last lap we might see Dakusa coming close enough for a move there into first position, which of course, if he manages to do it, would be a heroic drive on his end. I think as far as I remember, nobody's done something like that. I think the closest thing we've seen to a drive like that was WMDR Martin in his first race, from last position to what was it, in 5th in Spain, which was incredible. So Dakusa giving Martin on that race, or in terms of that, a run for his money at the moment.
Yeah, Lusty are actually decreasing that gap to Marley now, so Marley might even lose out his position to Lusty as well, and that's gonna knock him down the podium.
It might do that as well. Of course, Clown not wanting to lose that first position, but of course wanting Marley to lose that third, so he can have close the gap by just a little bit more for that last race of the championship next week.
Yeah, last lap of the race now, and Dakusa is still on the attack for...
with Gasku making good room there, Dakusa still being on the attack. I don't think he'll be close enough anywhere unless Cloud makes a mistake, which we haven't seen so far. Of course, we don't know about the penalty that Marley has. Marley, of course, being currently in 3rd position, but he does have a 10-second penalty, and if that penalty is legitimate, he would fall down into 7th or 8th, I believe.
Yeah, Gasku having some issues, I think, as he had to brake. He was probably letting them through and then just driving straight through that wall of... yeah, I don't know what it's called, but back to it again. Oh, Dakusa is so close now.
Dakusa is so close indeed.
On the last
he has the pace, and now Marley can't allow himself to crack. It seems like he did not brake late, and just keeping the car on that line. Just making sure to cover that apex and exit It doesn't seem like he'll give Dakusa the room that he needs to make a move work. Not a great corner by either of them. As we come on to the last corner, it seems like neither of them will make a mistake, and they don't, which means it's a win for Clown and an incredible second place for Dakusa, coming up from, what is it, 11th position on the grid into second, which might as well have been the charge of his career, with Lusty coming in with damage on Marley's car?
Yeah, that was because of the race end.
Because of the race ending and the car is crashing into the barriers. Of course, Marley now being only in 6th position after penalties. With Shooter just taking out Shaggy Dan, sending him home to Canada to fight for his people. Interesting to see. We don't know which penalties will stick at the moment, especially, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see if Marley goes and fights his. I do not know what he's received it for.
Oh.
And that is it, I believe. So, there was some action towards the end there as well. It got a little bit of stale, like at the middle of the beginning. I think around lap 10 stuff stopped happening, but then we came back strong, I believe, towards the end. Had really good fighting, especially after all of the drivers pitted, as Dakusa seemingly just put his car somewhere where it didn't seem to belong. It just,
I'm gonna go
put
ask
it into
Clown for an interview.
Alright, Dakusa putting it into second position. He clearly gets my driver of the day for a drive like that. But, of course, we'll possibly have the race winner in our chat soon. And, of course, an interview by the one and only, the Insulaventus. Well, until then, I'm going to entertain you. So, as we have it right now, you can, of course, see Clown in first, Dakusa in second, Lusty in third, Arsik in fourth, Nui in fifth, Marlene, Smolda, Oblator in 6th, 7th, and 8th, Shaggy Dan in 9th, Shooter in 10th, followed by Stormen, Ticklish Picklewickle, and Gosku in 11th, 12th, and 13th. And rounding out the grid is S4 Howie in 14th, Midweek Coma having disconnected due to a PC crash, and I believe it was Matster spinning his car and having to retire in the early stages of the race.
I'm gonna bring up Clown now. That's our race winner, and he sounded hyped. So let's go. And here we have him now with us. And that Howie, I think it was Howie that spun there, and you had to dodge. Was that allowed Dakusa to catch you in the end there?
Yeah, Dakusa had a great pace near the end, though. He was definitely quicker in the later stage of the race. But that gave him like 1.5 seconds, and he almost, like, maybe if he had 2 more laps, it would have been a nice battle. But luckily for me, it didn't end up that way.
Yeah, for me, Dakusa he's a great contender for the driver of that race. He was setting like the best lap times all around the board, like from the midfield, and then actually catching up and taking second position. That was really impressive, I think so. But dude, congrats on first.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's gonna be a really close last race in Bugatti next week, because Marley, I think he had like a 10-second penalty.
So
yeah,
I forgot.
Yeah, it's probably like for speeding in the pit, so I don't think they'll remove that, which is...
Oh, I actually totally forgot about that. That's certainly gonna put the really... I did some slow maths, and I believe if Marley finished second and you first, that's he would have had to finish 11th if you were first. Last race.
This is gonna spice things up a bit.
Wow,
but we'll see.
Yeah,
he's a great racer and a nice guy. So
we talked about it in the commentary as well, that if you wouldn't have had one of those, all these bugs that you've had, I think that gap would have been really small, a bit smaller.
Yeah, that's true. But oh well, it happens, and like I'm fine either way. I'll probably end up like top 3, and I'm happy with that anyway. So But of course, winning is nice.
It always is. Yeah, but I'm just gonna go put you down there and see if I can get some others up for a commentary.
Sure.
Of course, I forget this every time because I have to get people for commentary. But who finished second again? Was
Dakusa.
There were so many. Yeah, it was
Dakusa
Dakusa.
finished second.
Oh yeah, of course it was. I'm gonna go ask him.
So yes, that was quite the race we have just witnessed. Like I said again, it'll be interesting to see what actually happens with the penalty that Marley has received. Like I said, I do not believe it was from overtaking a car after having contact or overtaking a car off of the track. So if this means a net 6th position for Marley, we'll see a spice up next race.
Hey, I'm back again, and I'm bringing with me Dakusa in a second. Strong contender for driver of the race, in my opinion. Here he is, Dakusa. How the hell did you do that? Like, you set those lap times this whole race. How were you so consistent?
Yeah, thanks. That was intense. I just had a very good setup and clean air, so I could keep pushing.
Congrats on second place, and of course that incident with Howie in the middle of the track there. That allowed you to catch up to Clown, didn't it?
Yeah, I didn't know about that. there was some car in the chicane ghosting.
Yeah,
I passed Molly, but I passed Molly there, but had to let him pass because it wasn't clean.
Yeah, we actually saw some passing moves between you and Clown there, and was it Marley?
Yeah, Molly.
It was Molly. Yeah, that was fantastic. We really appreciate seeing this clean racing. It's fantastic to see. But again, I'm just gonna check for a second where you are on the. Yeah, you're in fifth. Yeah, that finish might actually put you. Where did Rick finish again? Do you remember, Fistopheles?
I believe in 5th position, just behind Lusty.
Yeah, okay, so that might actually put you in contention for the podium, Dakusa. That would be cool for the championship points.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, so last race coming up. It's gonna be so cool. I really hope that you guys that are watching still catch us then, because it's actually really tight. It's gonna be cool to see. So yeah, I'm just gonna go put you down there. Congrats again. I'm really impressed by that, considering, you know, in season 9, did you feel you've improved from season 9 to season 10?
Yeah, pretty much. Of course, the car helps because the Bentley was just so slow.
Yeah, I remember you being the Bentley guy in the midfield there, fighting all the time. So it's just so cool to see that you guys, yeah, in the midfield also go up into the front later on in the seasons. So yeah, so congrats again. I'm just gonna go move you down there, and there we go.
All right.
Yeah. Who was
3rd position officially?
Marley.
According to the Project Cars 2 game, it was Lusty. We don't know about the penalty that Marley has. Therefore, it's very difficult for me to say at the moment who is actually in 3rd.
Yeah, I can see that the Lusty has muted his mic and his headset, so I'm just gonna go down there and ask if anyone knows what happened. So yeah, be right back.
I shall entertain you for the time being then, as we are in the closing stages of this stream as well. Interesting, as it's being said in chat, that the gap between Marley and Clown, if it stays as it is, with Marley in 6th position, will be 8 points. So, I do believe that is the difference between first, or smaller than the difference between 1st and 2nd position. So if Clown finishes 1st, Marley could possibly lose out on that championship. It'll be, like I said, it will be very interesting to see what happens. If you want to keep updated on actually what happens, you can of course sign up for the AOR Apex Online Racing, or check the website, and it should be, you should be able to view the stewards' inquiries in the forums, which would let you check what happens to that penalty. Otherwise, of course, we will update you next time, next week, of course, for our postponed round. I believe it was round 4 had been postponed due to a soccer match, which we are now repeating. Next week
I am back again, and Lusty does not have a microphone at the moment, so he will not be available for an interview, but yeah, congrats to Lusty.
Yes.
And he is in 8th, yeah, so probably going to catch that position from Shaggy Dan in the championship, so.
He might. Alright. I believe that would be that then, though. So
yeah, that's it.
We will see you next week for the final round of AOR Project Cars 2 GT3 Season 10 Tier 2. It will be at Circuit Bugatti. It is the round that has been postponed, and it will be the championship decider. So, Marley or Clown, who will it be? Tune in next time to find out.